We should be live on Facebook.
Awesome.
Welcome to For Feck's Sake Marketing Adventures with Carmel. And of course, I have my amazing guest here, John, who I'll introduce properly in just a moment. So For Feck's Sake Marketing, if you are actually watching it here on Facebook, give us a comment and like below. If you're watching it on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more amazing interviews like this with tips, tricks, and insights into how you can market and grow your business and the people behind the business too. So this man, I'm very excited about this interview today because I get to talk to one of my favorite people, and that is the amazing John Sharkey. So John Sharkey and I have known each other, gosh, John, I was working it out about 10 years.
Yeah, it's coming to a decade, easy.
Yeah.
Easy, Carmel.
Yeah. And as you can tell, you may have to get a little bit of your decipher now because there's two Irish accents going to be talking to you at the same time. So I wanted to do you a bit more justice than just say, hey, this is John, and just introduce you as the person I met through, it was a coaching course that we both did together, and then we just got some connection, and we've been like that connected ever since. Anytime I'm in Melbourne, I certainly try and reach out and see you. But you were an executive chef, but you are now a highly accomplished executive and leadership coach, facilitator, and educator. And I do love your deep thinking. You come from such a heart space. And I know on your website, it even says that you philosophize a lot, and you do. You come at things from a whole different angle. And I love that journey. Maybe it's because I've got hospitality in my background too. And it's like, look at us now. So what I'd love you to give people that are listening to that is a bit of an insight as to who was John. And I know it's a big question, but you know, we'll do it as best we can in the short time we have. Who was John? What changed and made John become who is John?
Yeah, wow. Off the deep, yeah. Okay, let me just.
Let's just throw it in there.
Yeah, look. No, I love it. No, I do it. I love it. And let me predicate by saying, I'm rapt to be here, Carmel. I've been a big fan of yours for a long time, and one of the things I particularly liked about you and working with you was your straightforward, pragmatic. You just spoke the truth. You didn't waffle, and I can see why you are where you are today. It makes perfect sense. You know, for feck's sake, let's just get on with it. Let's just do it, and let's get some results, however that is for the individual. And so, you know, coming into the conversation here, you were talking about, well, who was John Sharkey back then to who he kind of is now, and in many ways he's still the same, but it's interesting that what I consider to be deep in terms of conversation is kind of my normal now. It's my normal, and I can see through the timeline. You know, well, maybe you don't know, but I can see it through the timeline of my life at certain as I look back over it. And as you know, I've recently turned 50. You know, there's 50 seasons, 5 decades in there. I've been able to draw on, well, what happened at what points for you to be where you are today. And I say that because every single person's on a journey, and this is such a pivotal conversation right now, because look at what's going on in the world. There is huge change taking place in the world, and that's really important to put that in context right now, because it's not just in our personal lives, it's in our work lives, and it's in our relationships, and it's in our businesses. And so I didn't start out in the business side of it. For me, I started out as the chef. That's what brought me to Australia. I was working for large 5-star hotels. I wanted to be a superstar. I wanted to be an executive chef. And quickly, it kind of hit around the 30-year mark. And I lifted my head and I realized I've been doing this since I was 15. And I was 15 years of doing that. And I've just felt burnt out and exhausted. And so that was the first kind of point where, we kind of had a joke in the family, is that's where you had your first hissy fit, John. That's where you had your first wobbler, as we called it. But in many ways, it was like a mini. I don't like to use nervous breakdown because it wasn't really. That's not the correct context, psychologically speaking. It was more part of the awakening.
Yeah.
And more part of me coming out of this dreamlike state of everything that had been conditioned in me for who I thought I had to be in the world, in a nutshell. And you're either pushing life or life is going to push you in different dynamics. And our lives are like these equalizers. 1 minute your finances can be doing well, but your relationships are crap. Your health can be really good, but your business is going terrible. So that equalizer is all over the place. And it's challenging to get that equalizer to be in exactly the same spots for the treble and the bass and the background noise, and everything is kind of in a line. And I believe that not just personally, but organizationally, when we can get those equalizers in that particular space, then things happen in our lives as if by magic.
Yeah,
and I literally use that word by magic, but a lot of the times is we start messing with the dials and pressing the buttons and twisting the knobs, and we just mess with things, and then we wonder why. Well, why the hell am I where I am now? Why the hell is my relationship the way it is? Why is my career the way it is? Why is there's issues in my business? Why is those issues across the board with a number of my health, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you kind of realize that a lot of it is to do with ourselves. So just doing a quick close to that loop, got into my 30s. For me then personally was getting married, having kids, and sort of building the empire. And then there was in the midst of all of that, I still had this sensation of what is that thing that just won't leave me alone. And now through the course of my journey, I realized that that's part of the calling. That's part of the source or life in some way, trying to move you towards something. But we're not taught to stay still and be quiet long enough to hear what those messages are. And when I finally got that, then that's where you arrive at where it is the individual arrives. Does that make sense?
Yeah, look, it does. And I love the way you put it as in the calling. I think I call it the niggle. It was just something there. And it's like, what is this? Why am I not? And I know we come from similar backgrounds. So there was a part of me that was like, why am I not happy with my lot the way everyone else around me is? What's wrong with me that I'm not just happy with it? And I think a lot of people, and I know a lot of people that will be listening to this, go, yeah, I have that niggle, but it was like, I could never put my finger on it. What is it? And when you have that somewhat awareness, awakening, whatever word you want to put on it, to say, oh, okay, I get now that there's something guiding me or trusting that it is something bringing me into that uncertainty of whatever it needs to be. So when you recognize that, and as you say, you had your hissy fit, culturally and I suppose societally, what is it that gives you the courage to step out of that? Because I know you have a job, you have family, and it's like, I don't want to step out of it, but this thing won't go away. What gives you the courage to do that?
It's really interesting. And that feeling never goes away. It never goes away. I mean, and so after 10 years, I did, I would say in 2019, in a big way, surrendered to that. I know it sounds esoteric and it probably sounds a bit abstract. That's literally what I did. I just came to a place and decision of going, you can't have both in the same place at the same time. If you are going to be the creator of whatever that is in your life, that is to say that you want to give birth, create something, in this case, it could be a business, new possibilities, relationship, whatever it is for you. You've got to give up something within you in order to be able to move forward. And this is what I do a lot in organizations in terms of change. Yes, change is a process, okay? And we've got the dips, we've got the pits, and we come out of it, and then it's just accept it, okay? But there's a whole emotional and psychological process. And I don't just mean biologically in terms of psychology, but there's a process we go through. There's also a deeper process we go through. And I know it's a word that sometimes is not comfortable in corporate, but it's started kind of become a little bit looser now, where we may use the esoteric term of spirituality in conjunction with that process, because neither of them are separate. You can't have one without the other. You can't have a heart without a brain. They just can't function without each other. And so it's like having the frame of a car and then the engine and the wheels. Certain components have to come together to make this whole unit move forward. And so I really want to talk to the part of people out there that may have this niggling thing that's going on within them, or this niggling sensation that's generally neurological, or your nervous system, sympathetic nervous system, giving you some sort of feedback. You know, you're hot, you're cold, or you're feeling a bit strange. I encourage people to listen to that, because that's, for me, where some of the best insights come from. And then when you talk about having that courage to move forward, you can have the courage without the fear. They coexist. But somewhere along the line, you either have to give up the courage or you have to give up the fear. And for me personally, it was like I projected myself at some stage. And I know there is a point to all of this, Carmel. People are running around like they're going to live forever.
Yeah.
And I said to my wife last night, it's funny, I was chatting with Kerry because it was a decision she need to make. And I said, Kerry, let's go macro on this. Let's just blow this out. And I said, in 3 generations from now, nobody will remember you. Nobody will remember you. Mm-hmm. And she goes, She goes, okay, what do you mean by that? I said, well, you think about right now, there's you, there's your mom, there's your grandmother. Who's before your grandmother? Who's before your grandmother's grandmother, your grandmother's grandmother's grandmother, and all the way back down the line to your ancestors?
Yeah.
You remember them? She goes, no, I don't. I said, that's right. I said, do you think you'll be any different? She goes, no. I said, so right now, as I'm saying this to you, where do you feel it in your body? And she goes, oh my God, she goes, I feel it at the top of my stomach. I said, okay, that's interesting, isn't it? So that's your physiological nervous system giving you feedback. But most of us aren't trained to listen to that and go, no. That's a bit abnormal. That's a bit esoteric. That's a bit whatever it is. But yet the irony of that is we do it every day. You know when you need to use the bathroom. You know when you're hot or you're cold. You know when you're hungry. You know when you love somebody. So there's always that feedback system. But that's that equalizer. So my equalizer, when I work with people, I ramp it right up. It just turn that dial up. And then when you turn that dial up for people, they go, whoa. It's like, whoa, there's so much more that we're aware of, so much more we can see, feel. And that intensifies things on the roller coaster of life. And so I hope that goes some way to explaining that for me, it was, I'm going to come to the end of this roller coaster ride, and I'm going to look back over this roller, please God, I have the opportunity and realize that, wow, was it a life well lived?
Yeah. And, you know, it's interesting you say that. And I think it does come, maybe it's in your 50s. I'm not sure. Because I'm way past you, John.
But I was doing this when I was a young fella, and I didn't recognize this. This is my point.
This is it.
But I recognize it now in younger people, and I see it. And so then that allows me to have a different conversation with those individuals. That allows me to speak to them differently. And they kind of go, oh, that's not the way perhaps I would have looked at this. Yeah.
And do you think that the, as you say, not the way we used to look at it, do you think that is because, well, my view is anyway, societally, we're not taught to. We're taught to be good little soldiers, to go and do the right thing by the right people in whatever form that takes. So, you know, nationality, it depends, different countries, different cultures have different things. But it is kind of, you talk about generations handing you down stuff. While you mightn't physically remember, those beliefs are quite often handed down from that 3, 4, or 5 gaps before. Do you think that is part of the reason that people don't see this change until it's almost too late?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, absolutely. And it's not just in our personal lives. It's like, let me give you an example. I was speaking with somebody at lunchtime who is a senior leadership person. We're in an organization in Adelaide. They finished up there last week, and they're actually on a plane tonight to go to Bahrain. And that's a whole other thing, trying to get out of the country. But
I was going to say,
that was a whole other conversation. But what I want to say to you is, with that individual, when I was speaking to that individual, I actually said, you knew, if you're completely honest with yourself, you knew that when you entered into that contract, within days, that this wasn't going to work out. I said, if you're just honest with yourself and just stopped and paused for a minute, and stop going into the ego of, I need to think one step ahead to constantly be in the future, to figure this out, to work whatever it is that you think it is that you need to work out, which is the constant distraction of the ego anyway. And then that just puts us in the way of ourselves. I said, you knew that there was something out of whack. And he said, oh, wow. He said, you nailed me 100%. I knew it in hours.
Yeah.
I knew an hour. And then it's about the unpacking of the justification of all of those things. Justify, because as we say, we've got the job, we've got the salary, we've got the kids in the private school, we've got the big expensive car, we've got the lifestyle, we've got the house, and it's just all that surfacey stuff that once you go around into the back door, you get into the juicy stuff. The people are not comfortable with the juicy stuff. But what I'm really seeing going on in the world right now is everything that's going on in the world, it's pushing people to really have a look to them to say, well, all right, what's important here? Because that's what I've seen, particularly in organizations. Yeah.
And look, you mentioned burnout and exhaustion, and again, because on a business perspective, and most people I talk to have had a business or in a business or that sort of thing. Why do we wait until we get to burnout and exhaustion in order to have this aha moment?
Yeah, it's really it's part of, look, I've given that a lot of thought. There's a lot of it is and obviously done a lot of work being completely transparent with you, both with coaches and both with therapists over the years. And it's really interesting. I was really against, if I can share with you, I was really, I didn't want to go and work with psychs and what have you, because what we're doing is that's very scientific based and it wasn't very heart centric. But I got to tell you, that's probably where I got most of my insights from, in terms of how I'm structured and how this physical entity that I am moves through this world. And a lot of people, I believe, they arrive at that place of burnout because they actually haven't listened to the signposts on the way. Most people that I know, that when they arrive and say the burnout, I say, well, you're not actually burned out. You just haven't looked at the road signs on arriving to where you have to arrive to. And most of the time you see, if you're going somewhere, you punch in the GPS coordinates and you just drive there. Well, this is sometimes what we do with ourselves. We just think we're this machine that just heads in that direction, and that we have to need that. So we're trying to meet this standard, these bars that society puts on us, or even half the time it's in our own skull of what we think it is that we're supposed to be, that we end up having this crash. And this crash then puts us into a place of where we have to be quiet.
Yeah.
We have to
pause. To switch off all the distractions.
And we have to go inward. And I've got to tell you, that is, if you've never done that before, and I know for my generation, that's not what it was about. It was about go to school, learn to read, write, pick a career,
and just
do much. And by the way, it better have a good retirement fund at the end of it.
Yes.
And that was.
Yeah, that's very much the program. Isn't it?
That was the program. And then you try to speak to somebody who has subscribed to that program. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's maybe it's a subscription you don't necessarily want to have. And you don't want Netflix or Amazon, Prime. You pick, both the same thing, but at the end of the day, which do you prefer? And so, you may say, well, that's not actually what I want. And so people start approaching it differently and then start creating their own lives. And then that's the people that you and I hang out with. They go, well, no, I'm going to take a bit of a sabbatical now, or no, I'm going to work on myself now, or actually, no, I'm going to go on this other journey over here, or I'm going to upgrade myself in another way. And that's where the curiosity with the individual comes. And that's a very lonely place to be unless you've got people like yourself who people can turn to, or people like myself who have walked that path in some way, because everybody's path is different.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody's 100%. Path. And eventually we all arrive at the same space. And I think more and more people are really becoming aware of that, Carmel. I think that's what juices me more and more, is I go, wow, there's more and more people starting to wake up to certain things, and at their pace, at their speed, for what it is that they want. Now, we also have to remember that a lot of people burn out because they buy into something. So for example, and I know what businesses, we've been on this journey for 10 years. You never really arrive. And even though you might, and like, I got to say that, for me, very on the piece within the first, say, 5-6 years, it was how much am I making? Because that's the cleanest form of feedback, is money. Okay.
Yeah.
And how much is in the bank account? What can we do? And what holidays can we have? What can I drive? Et cetera, et cetera. And then once you've done that, you're like, really, what the hell am I doing? And then you go, that's the next level of where you are on your journey. And you go, wow, so I've taken care of all this other stuff over here. I'm okay with this other stuff here. What does this now mean for me? And I'm saying this in quick time, if that makes sense, because it doesn't happen fast. That's something that takes months, and for some people, it can take years.
Yeah.
But the important thing is, I want to say to people is, if I can just get this message out, and I'm really big with this in organizations at the moment, and people leaders I'm working with, is please, please, please have some compassion for yourself right now. Please, please, please have even more empathy for others around you right now. If that's a message that I can put forward in terms of leadership, because that hierarchy of leadership is disintegrating from the political levels in society, dribbling all the way right down into our own families. It's starting to disintegrate in many ways. It's a big conversation for another time. At the end of the day, the only way to move through this here, and the way that I've been leading myself and other people with this here, slowly, methodically, is through self-compassion and outward empathy. And if we don't do enough of this, we're going to be in even more strife.
Yeah. Awesome. And you can it does, and you can tell the passion. And look, it's a thing I say to people myself, both clients, members, and it's a thing my mentor actually said to me. It was very much about be kind to yourself. Because if you can't be, and look, just for an example, as you know, about 5 years ago, when I went through some stuff with my family and whatever, but I was so programmed, I was like, okay, put that in a compartment, now push, push, push. Yeah, what I do. And it was actually my mentor went, stop, just be kind to yourself. Because I was going, I get that's happened, but I still have to push. I have to get this stuff done, because I had decided that was the only way to be. But you know what? You're so right. In 3 generations, who's going to remember whether Carol pushed herself or John pushed himself too hard or whatever? That's not the measure of it. Now, look, I still believe in business generally that money can be the clearest feedback mechanism, just because that's societal. That's what people say. Well, you do, you don't. But I certainly
just so you know, I'm not against money.
No.
I may be esoteric at heart, but I'm a capitalist in my mind. In many ways, because it's the tool. I see the tool and the power of that tool, and other commodities as well.
I just see it as a means of exchange, and it's just like years ago they would have sucked a cow for a sheep or whatever was most valuable at the time. And it's just in our society that is kind of one of the measures. So tell me now, John, with all that changes, and again, similar backgrounds from Ireland, we've both been in hospitality, and they were ridiculous hours, often unfriggin' allocated hours, so you get paid for 40 but you work 60, and you work weekends when everyone else is going out, you're bloody working, and quite often for little thanks. So to change from that, and then to start working with businesses and become that executive coach with all of that. So what has changed in terms of how you view success? Now, I know that it is more coming from the heart space, but if you were to put in a couple of sentences now, what is success to you? What would you say?
Yeah, and I've given a lot of thought to that. And I write a lot of this as well. I journal a lot of this, Carmel, as well. I'm very clear on what my values are. Yeah. It's not a conversation that, yes, I understand in organizations, what are the organization's values? What is its cultures, and what are its behaviors? And a lot of the time, it's out of alignment, and we're the same as human beings. I mean, I still got behaviors that are out of alignment with values sometimes. The difference is now is I know how to correct it. Yes. Okay. I know when it's out of whack. I mean, I'm a flawed human being. Yeah. A deeply flawed human being, as we all are, but I can only speak for myself, and therefore I can only manage, control. I don't even want to use those words, but I can only respond to and move those levers and buttons within myself to move to whatever it is that's important to me. Because most people on their journey, you work long enough, you're going to accumulate certain things, but then it's also got to be about, well, what am I going to do? What am I leaving behind? And as a 50-year-old man, the biggest thing for me right now in terms of my own values, this is not for everybody because everybody's not the same, but all my energies goes into my children and into my marriage. That's the bedrock, I believe. And when I look at a lot of the problems in society as a sweeping generalization, a lot of them stem from a lack of that solidarity within the family. Now, that's a big call to make, and I get that. But if more and more we were bringing this compassion, bringing this empathy towards each other in families, then, and by my family's by no means perfect. I'm not on some pulpit up here. I get it. You understand me? And there's a lot of stuff that I'm still working through. But for me, understanding that my number one value is freedom. My second one is expression of that freedom. Okay, and then the third one after that is family, and then there's a whole other host of Dropbox values all the way right down. So for me, if I'm here in the morning to be able to see my children off, to make sure they're financially okay, nutritionally okay, emotionally okay, and all those different components that I'm hyper aware of, as is my wife, that where we are right now. That's not to say we don't have other things in different laneways going in different directions over here. They are common, but that's where we pool our energies and our love. And and I know that what you focus on is what you get. Because for me, as a man, I know that when I do depart, and I will depart, that that is what I'm leaving. Let me tell you, none of my children have ever come up to me at any stage and said, "Dad, how much have you got in the bank account?" Never. Never.
And John, I agree. My children are older and they have never asked me.
Never asked that. It's extraordinary because I work with men and women, but mostly in organizations who've got the massive salaries, who are working those, it wasn't just in hospitality, but in other industries, they work very hard. But there's also an element of avoidance in that. That's another topic for another time. And then also, particularly for men, and then also because we're kind of we're good out there, we're hunting, we're gathering. And then they've got the toys, and then they've got the house, and then they've got the other house, and they've got all these other, but they're drinking like the fish and they're miserable. Yeah. And the kids don't talk to them, by the way. So it's really, we haven't even had a glass of wine, Carmen. We could be here all day. But,
we could be here all day and all night.
But it's really important that, particularly in business, that you become clear what your values are, because it's good to have those, this is what you got to hit. These are the targets. This is how much you want to make. But I can tell you, if you're making $500,000 or $1 million a year, and there's certain things over here in the left-hand column that aren't making sense, like your relationships aren't good, your health may not be the best, or there's some things that are out of alignment, then what's the point when, you could be earning, I'm just making numbers up for people. It's different for everybody, whether it's 200, 100, 50, 25, whatever it is for you, doesn't matter. But the point is, if it's out of alignment, you're going to feel that. And then that's how you can navigate and be able to avoid those pitfalls of burnout and crash, and get up and do it all over again, burnout and crash, and get up and do it again. And before you know it, you're an old person and you're like, well, what the hell was that all about?
Well, you can't get back up and do it again. And I love that you mentioned avoidance, because I think it does happen for a lot. In hindsight, 2020 vision. So I was, like yourself, brought up, hospitality was all I knew. But then I became a single mom. There is no way on this wide earth, even though this niggle was always there, that I could have thought about leaving a job, even though I wasn't necessarily happy, because I was programmed, and also wearing the badge of honor, which was my busy badge, meant that I could avoid any of the pain, and I could avoid other people that I might have to talk to. I was the queen of a 2-minute conversation. Oh yeah, sorry, I have to go and serve someone. I have to go and serve somebody, because I was so programmed. But in hindsight, I was avoiding confronting any of the discomfort and pain because I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't have the tools. It's and I think, as you say, it's for another day, perhaps the avoidance.
No. I look. And it wasn't just, it's really interesting. When you look at hospitality, it's a hard industry. It's interesting. And I see us both as being the heart-centered people. And this is the paradox. We're in this industry that you want to be able to bring that heart, but in many ways you can't, because the margins are so tight and there's such a big expectation. And if you don't meet those expectations, that's where the pain and that that disintegration, that disconnect comes, and that has a massive effect, not just with other people around us, but it has a massive effect on us personally.
Yeah,
as individuals.
For sure. One of the things I recognize that my time in hospitality taught me, good, bad, or indifferent, was the power to be able to disassociate. Now, it works for me if I'm conscious of it, but it also was avoidance when I wasn't conscious of it.
Yeah.
But I'm aware of our time, because I think
I appreciate that. They're big concepts for people, Carmel. So, we're really, I love the fact that you and I, and then it becomes vibrational, and it becomes about our awareness and being able to communicate that to people, and people, if they're sitting out there or standing or wherever they are listening to this right now, or just stumbling across this right now, the important thing to do, if this speaks to you, to act upon it, however that is for you. That could just be picking up a phone call to fix up a relationship issue with somebody. That could be a phone call to return to get back to a client. That could be a conversation with your partner or your kids, or having a look at something in your business. Maybe it's time for you to walk away from your business, and you're avoiding that. To go, well, you know what? I've done my time with that. It's okay. I've had that season. It's now time to move on to the next thing, because we're not aware of these cycles within us. You, for example, now you went through from the single mom. Now all of a sudden, and everybody knows this, and I'm okay. I hope I'm okay. So you're now a grandmom.
Yeah.
You're in a different season, and all I can say to speak to that is from a humanitarian perspective. What insights are you going to bring to that child? What safety and security is that child now going to feel when they're around you? What valuable, intangible and tangible things can you bring to that individual that's going to have an impact in the world? For me, see, that's not deep. For me, that should just be normal. And many people will be going, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. I get what you're actually saying there. Yeah, I kind of feel that, John. That's kind of cool. Well, if that's what you're feeling, then get on this bandwagon. Yeah. Make that change. Get on this bandwagon and start to notice these things about yourself, and start to take the action. You do that course. Anything, wherever it's pulling you, go ahead and do it. What have you got to lose?
Well, this is the thing. People have the perception they have a lot to lose, because we have an unacknowledged, and quite often people are completely unaware of the positioning to be liked. So we're positioning to be liked all the time. Now, whether people, and I know my time in hospitality was certainly driven by that, because I want people to like me. I wanted them to come more to the business, blah, blah, blah. I would have said, no, I don't care if people don't like me. But the truth is, by nature, we are designed to position to be liked. Because what happens if you're the most liked person in the tribe, going back way back in the day, well, of course, people are going to gravitate to you because they want to procreate to you with you and all of that. Like, we're kind of designed, although we don't realize it, to position to be liked.
Yeah. And I love that saying, Carmel. The mind can only measure that which it will lose. It can't measure that which it will gain.
No, because it doesn't know what it doesn't know.
And it can't see what it can't see, because it can't tell the difference between, what's real and what's perceived. And psychologists will talk about this, but esoterically we automatically know this anyway. Most of it's just one big illusion.
Yeah,
it's all one big illusion. But that conditioning that we've had, and that classical condition that psychologists will talk about, never mind the operant conditioning that we have, which is kind of more towards the animal, but it speaks to the animal spirit within us. A lot of people actually, with the conditioning in society, they want to be told what to do, Carmel.
They have actually, and that was another one, they have an unacknowledged need to be led. That's people don't realize it, but again, by programming, by the society, we kind of go, well, somebody just tell me what to do. And I know that was me for years. There was no doubt about, I'm a hard worker, I'm a this, but it was like, somebody just show me the way, just tell me. And it comes up still, you don't lose that. Sometimes, like, they're making videos, go, oh, for Jesus' sake, can somebody just tell me how to do this? And
that's uncomfortable, because it leans into having to take responsibility. And what most people don't realize is that you know, and I know we say this in coaching that we, you know, everything you need is within you, and absolutely it is. But there's such a pervasive sense of self-doubt in society that sometimes I want to bang heads because, and I see it with people, I go, it's really important you stop right now doubting yourself.
Yeah.
And I want to speak to that in people, like right now, as I'm looking at them saying, just stop doubting yourself. What's within you right now is absolutely everything that you could possibly need. If you need to cut your way through a jungle, there's a machete that's sitting beside you right now, metaphorically speaking, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's all there. If you've got a business idea, then you have to follow through with that, because that would leave with you. If you have a song, if you have a book, if you have a business, if you have whatever the heck it is for you, it doesn't matter. It resides within you. You've got to take that from this out to this. And in this day and age, there's no reason not to. We've got these tools now. We've got these tools in me, and I've seen this huge pivot take place over the last 18 months, 2 years, which is amazing. But I will say this: there is no substitute for high touch over high tech. None. Yeah. And people still want to hug and shake hands, and you can't.
They do. And in the absence of doing that, this kind of environment, like I wish I had shares in Zoom before all this started, because everything skyrocketed. This is the way of doing it. And that's why over the last few years, I think I've gone much more into video. So while we can't necessarily touch and feel, you can bring somebody on an emotional story in a video that you can't just by writing. Yeah, you just can't. Like, you know, of course you can bring them a little bit, but adding the emotions and the visuals and the pictures and the images of people, you just have to look at some of the advertising that's coming out at the moment to know that emotional triggers on that. But I'm aware of the time. Would you believe we've been talking the guts of an hour? But that's okay. So I can't wait to finish this video, not finish it to get rid of you, to actually take some snippets out of it, because there's such frigging gold in here, John. And again, I know we could talk for hours. So with the business, with Grown Business, because I want to give real insights to people watching this. So, you know, we've talked about a lot of the psychology of it. So what is it that has been one of the hardest decisions you've ever had to make specifically in your business in order to keep it going?
Yeah. Okay, let me. So for me, when I look at who I am in terms of what I bring, in terms of consultancy, in terms of coaching, but also in other avenues and streams I have that run parallel to that. Perfect example is in 2017 buying a bricks and mortar business, and then realizing through 2018, thinking that I could do all these things in parallel. So I could do the consultancy, I could do the coaching, I could do the change management stuff, I could do the leadership, and I could run this bricks and mortar business with my life partner, my wife, basically. And, you know, while that was successful in terms of, well, we didn't go broke and we made money, I can tell you that it was wobbly psychologically. And what I want to say is you can't get away from that. You can't get away from the psychology of who we are. There's just no way of getting around it. And it's only recently that what I want to contextually speak to that about is that all through 2018, then we sold in 2019, which was perfect timing, as you can imagine, by the way. I had a pervasive sensation that whole pretty much 18 months. And it's only recently through working through some stuff within myself that I had this constant nagging sensation. And what I realized what it was sadness. There was a continued ongoing pervasive sense of sadness. Now, I know when we said that time, we can't put our finger on it. Sometimes you're not supposed to, and you're not going to be able to do it that day or that week. And it was actually only towards the end of last year that I actually popped that bubble in many ways inside of me, because it actually came to the surface enough to realize, I was actually sad. And that was a lot to do with selling that business, selling that bricks and mortar business, and to know when it's time to actually stop that business and actually then what that allows you to do is to spearhead and to focus solely on whatever comes from those things that you don't want to do emotionally or physically, and it allows you just to pinpoint to go in the direction of what it is that you want to move towards. And for people that could be a small business, for people that could be the coaching, the well-being business, whatever the business is for you. I don't think it doesn't matter. In this case for you, Carmen, it's what you do in terms of helping people get the message out there with marketing and building videos and the whole other host of things, the different caps that you wear at different times.
But and who knew I was going to be in
that's
marketing?
Right. That's right. And then it allows you to focus deeply to go in that direction. And I think the word of that, as I read it this morning, as I was at the top of my journal page, it says, "Are you honing your craft?" And I sat with that. I went, "Am I honing my craft?" And the immediate answer that came up for me was, "Yes, I am." So for me right now, I let that be enough in that moment.
Yeah.
Let that be enough in the moment. Yeah. Because then all of a sudden the ego will want to take over, and you want to take over the whole world and have a multinational corporation.
Yeah, we do. How important do you, I've only 3 more questions for you. How important do you feel the likes of video is in the businesses nowadays?
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive. And as you know, I have a lot of collaborative stuff that I'm doing, a lot of collaborative stuff I'm doing next month. And it involves video, and involves videos that we do that go out into corporate. But that's that spearhead. We're very clear on what we're doing when saying with the message. And the individual that I'm working closely with and privileged to work with in many ways, to be able to bring this into organizations. And there's a combination of both of those skills coming together that allow and make that to happen. Because Carmen, you know, and I know, but blimey, you know, this is a lonely road to walk.
Yeah.
Like it really is. Like, you know, like if you're in an office day after day after day, and all you've got is yourself, a screen, and the own stuff that's going on in your head, I can tell you, it gets a little bit repetitious inside there or something. Like it really does, where you have to go, crikey, you know, I mean, I just want to hang out with people. You know, and maybe that's for some people that might go, well, yeah, I've been doing this longer. Maybe it's going to give myself permission to go and do some of that collaborative stuff over there. I do that all the time. There's other people who are probably watching this here. I love doing it. We go in and you would do a piece of work, and it might only be 3 or 6 months.
Yeah, I do joint ventures all the time for that reason.
It just lifts you, and you build those relationships, and you walk away, and it fills your cup. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that answer that question? Did that answer that question?
Yeah, I think so. That's okay. Yeah, that's okay. I think we've talked about anything. So if people wanted to contact you or get in contact with you for any reason, what's the best way that
just jump on my website. It's always John Sharkey. Just jump on my website, have a little rummage around there. Or get in touch with me through LinkedIn. They're the best avenues. Yeah. They're the best avenues.
And your name is on the screen, so it's John
and just reach out and there's always something going. But I think that's what you were saying about the video. That's what I was getting back, remembering now. It's massive. It's huge.
Well, in the absence of, and I totally agree with you, that real genuine connection, give us a hug, shake hands or whatever, is absolutely vital. But one thing that video for me has allowed me to do is reach all over the world. I've had people from Ireland, England, the US, all over Australia, because they can see your facial expressions, or they can see your sense of humor or whatever that is in videos that you make as well.
And I'm so proud of seeing how far you've come, Carmen. I mean, it just inspires me. I mean, I just look at people around me and I just see people doing so well, doing some really cool stuff and just being themselves. And I just rock on. You don't stop doing that, because
thank you.
It makes the world a better place. You know, it gives me hope, particularly for my kids coming into it, that makes the world a better place. So
I love what you say about, and one of the biggest pivotal times for me was dropping the bullshit and just being myself. And that changed everything, rather than trying to put a mask on and pretend everything was perfect. By dropping that and actually being more authentically me, has
see that, Carmen. People can sniff that a mile off. I mean, we think people are like, but they're not. They kind of think, here we go.
Here she is talking all this stuff again. So I have one last question for you. I always ask my guests this question, and I have to say I love the reaction sometimes. And it's, if you weren't doing what you're doing right now, what would you be doing instead?
Oh, I'll have to That's a good question. If I could wave a wand and it was something that I might have done when I was a young fella, I would like to have been a pilot for Aer Lingus.
All right.
Which is and that's the only thing. But other than that, Carmela, I don't know. Wow, I don't know what I'd be doing. I just, you know, the very baseline of that equalizer is, as long as I'm helping people through the medium of face-to-face, or whether I'm doing this here or I'm on the phone or having calls, as long as on some conceptual level I am helping people and speaking from a place that connects with people, then my work here, you know, I get struck by lightning right now. My work here is done. You know, I just does that answer that question? I can't give anything sexier.
No, that's okay. This is always my get them at the end.
Yeah, that, you know, I'm going to hang up from this. I'm going to go, that was a really interesting question.
Oh, look, I've had people say, you know what, if I wasn't doing this, I'd be on a resort somewhere and I'd be the manager of the resort. So I could have a resort lifestyle and whatever. So everyone's different. There's no good, bad, right or wrong. But it's a question I don't think that we ask ourselves sometimes enough. Because if I wasn't doing this, is there something else I want to be doing? And if so, well, why am I not doing it?
That's right. And I was going to, you know, elucidate towards that. No, I don't. Look, and as you know, there's other things that I'm building on the side as well. There's other things that I'm moving. We never stop.
No.
We never, like, it's really, I see this in organizations, if I just speak to it quickly, most of the issues, a big issue with people now is because of everything that's been going on in the world, with the big, you know, C19, because I don't know if this is going to be on YouTube, you might be censored or something, but is that people have ended up in these little, well, the management term is silos, but they're in these little mental cubicles. It's like a pixelated picture of all these people. Where it used to be teams of people but now in the silos, but now it's all these little pixels of people, and while they're part of one big picture, they're actually not talking to each other. And so what we're doing, because they actually don't feel safe. And so the anxiety for people now, or not everybody, sweeping generalization, a lot of people coming back, a lot of people are rushing back, but a lot of people are going, oh, I've had my own space. I've been working from home. I've been working this. I'm not sure how I'm going to go. And I actually don't feel safe going back into that space.
Yeah.
And so there's this new building that has to take place to bring them back up emotionally to feel safe. Now, that is a very delicate thing that's going on in organizations right now. And if we're not careful, the arse will fall out of that. That's just some plain English. And so
that's a technical term, arse falling out.
and then so what then that means is then the leadership, the senior leadership team, whoever they are in the organization, they've got to be aware of that. But they're like you and I, what we were years ago. They're just blinkers on, bottom line, shareholders, and career, and so we've got to be able to remove them, okay, and almost have this unpicking and this unpacking of, really, guys, this is what's going on in your culture, and if it's going on in your culture at work, I'm telling you, it's going on in your culture at the golf club, at the sailing club, it's going on in your home. And when you say that to people, they go, "Whoa, that's a little bit." Full on. I'm going, well, do you want, because I can tell you, if you tinker around with that underneath the hood in the workplace and you can somehow bring it back together, I can tell you it shows up everywhere else. Okay? And I know that you get this, Carmel, because when you all of a sudden drop that bullshit, then it just starts showing up everywhere else. All of a sudden, then you're more courageous to speak your truth. By you allowing yourself to speak your truth, allows other people to speak their truth, allows me to speak my truth. I didn't
1,000,000%.
I didn't know you were going to have me coming on here to have this conversation. But when you said, "John, you want to have a conversation?" I said, "Shit, hang out with you, love to." But there's been other people I've gone, "You must be fucking joking me," and politely gone, "Oh, thank you, I'd love to. Maybe another time, but hey, all the best. Hope you're well." And that's how you manage that politely. I hope that made sense.
It did. No, absolutely, John. It's been awesome hanging out with you. Awesome. People can connect with you. So I'm going to finish up the call in just a moment. But guys, remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, please click the subscribe and put a comment underneath. If you're watching it on Facebook, hop over to YouTube as well. put any comments or questions that you have underneath, and John or myself will certainly get back to them. John, thank you so much. I love our conversations always.
Likewise.
So thank you for sharing your wisdom. And for now, it's bye from us.
Bye now.